Today I am bringing you a list of some of my most anticipated book releases for the second half of 2025. This is a follow-on to a video that I made back in December where I talked about my anticipated book releases for the year as a whole. However, so many more books have been announced since then and I wanted to talk about them and maybe put them on your radar if you weren't aware that any of these books were coming out soon. I'm going to try and go in order of release date, but I'll leave the specific release dates in the description just in case I've got any of them wrong. I made this list a while ago and I know that sometimes release dates can change, so check the description if you are interested in any of these. I've also split this video in half, so I'm going to start by talking about some standalones and then I'm going to move on to talk about some continuations in series. All of these are written by authors who I've read from and enjoyed in the past, so hopefully I can tell you why I'm excited for them and also what I'm expecting based on the author's previous work. We're going to kick things off with a book that is coming out very soon. It comes out mid-June and that is What Happens in the Dark by Kia Abdullah. This sounds like it's going to be another courtroom thriller. So this is following two women who were best friends growing up. One is now the nation's favourite breakfast TV presenter and the other was once a renowned journalist. However, she's recently gone through a fall from grace. One of these women is accused of murder and the other is on this quest for justice and is trying to uncover the truth. I'm assuming that this is going to follow the court case that happens after these events because that's what the author's previous books have done and that's what I've loved about Kia Abdullah's books. I'm fairly sure I've read all of her work. It's just the way that she writes these courtroom scenes. They're so gripping and dynamic, really addictive, very dark though, just as a warning. If you like dark thrillers, then I think you might like her books. I think they're really underrated. Every so often I'll hear someone talk about her books on BookTube, but I think that her books deserve so much more hype because they're so good. The Poppy Fields by Nikki Ehrlich also comes out in June. This is by the same author who wrote The Measure, one of my favourite books of last year, if not my favourite book of last year, and this sounds like it's another speculative literary fiction. The tagline here says, "What if there were a cure for the brokenhearted?" So it sounds like we're following a few different people who choose to go to this treatment centre in the desert where they claim to be able to cure heartache or loss through sleep. So you go into this deep slumber and when you awaken, you'll finally be healed, but only if you're willing to accept the side effects. If it's as thought-provoking as The Measure, then I'm sure this is going to be another 5 stars. Next up we have Cursed Daughters by Oyinkan Braithwaite. So this is the same author who wrote My Sister the Serial Killer. I feel like that book came out so long ago now, like over 5 years ago. I read it way before I started my BookTube channel, but I really enjoyed it. It was a very dark, I was going to say thriller, it's not really a thriller, but it's a dark literary fiction about the relationship between two sisters, and it sounds like this new book is also going to focus on family. It's about a family curse and a main character who has a resemblance to her dead aunt, and because of that this family believes that she has inherited this family curse. So it's about whether she is able to escape this family curse and the mysterious fate that befell her aunt. Sounds intriguing. I love books about families or family dynamics. Based on how much I enjoyed this author's previous book, I'm really hoping that this is a win, especially because it was so long ago that I read My Sister the Serial Killer. Next up we have The Devil She Knows by Alexandria Belfleur, which is a romance. However, this seems a little bit different to this author's previous books. Alexandria Belfleur, for anyone who doesn't know, is the author of the Written in the Stars series, as well as Truly Madly Deeply, which I haven't read, and The Fiancé Farce, which I have read. The cover for this is stunning, but I have a feeling this is the US cover and the UK cover isn't as pretty because that always seems to happen with Alexandria Belfleur's books. But this is following a main character called Samantha, which is my name. She's down on her luck and she makes a deal with a crafty demon to win back her ex-girlfriend after a proposal gone wrong, only to discover that the girl of her dreams might be the devil she knows. So it's a sapphic romance. It doesn't sound like it's going to be a second chance romance, which I'm always hesitant about. It sounds like this main character thinks she's going to have a second chance romance, but in fact she ends up falling for the devil. Yeah, it has that kind of magical twist, which is something a bit new. If you're looking for a sapphic paranormal romance to read around Halloween, then it looks like this comes out in October. The final standalone on my list is Daddy Issues by Kate Goldbeck. So this is the same author who wrote You Again, one of my favourite romances of last year. In fact, I think it was one of the few romances that I gave 5 stars last year. What I loved about it was, first of all, the setting. It was set in New York. I'd recently got back from New York and it just made me feel like I was back there. So I really loved that, but also the characters, in my opinion, felt very realistically flawed. It felt like a very realistic portrayal of relationships, and I'm hoping for something similar from this. I don't know whether this is going to be a romance or whether it's literary fiction or contemporary fiction with romance, but we're following a main character called Sam. I've just realised I've put 2 romances on this list and the main character has the same name as me in both, but we're following a main character called Sam who at 26 expected her life to be very different to how it is at the moment. She has massive student loans, she is working a job in an industry that is not the industry she wants to work in, and she's stuck in a situationship that isn't healthy. The love interest, from what I gather, is her mom's new neighbour Nick, and he is the ultimate grown-up. He has a 9-year-old daughter and her happiness is his only priority. It says here that Sam finds herself falling fast for a man whose life is steady and settled while hers is anything but. So seems like something that I would enjoy, and yeah, very intrigued to see what I think of this. So those are the standalones that I'm excited for in 2025. We're now going to move on to some sequels. First up we have The Woman in Suite 11 by Ruth Ware. So this is a sequel technically to The Woman in Cabin 10, which came out years ago now. I think I read it a few years ago. I really liked it. I gave it 4 stars. I thought it was a very clever mystery. I think it's one of Ruth Ware's better mysteries, and I'm very intrigued to see what she does with this sequel. I don't feel like I needed a sequel to that book, but from what I gather, it follows the main character from the first book many years later. She was a travel journalist, I think, in the first book, and from what I understand, she's taken a break and is now returning to her career, and she goes off on her first assignment, and there's a mystery. I haven't looked too much into it because Ruth Ware is an auto-author for me, so whatever this book is about, I'm gonna read it. Next up we have Accomplice to the Villain by Hannah Nicole Mayra, which I think is the final book in the Assistant to the Villain series. I hope it's the final book because the second book was a bit of a drag, to be honest, but I really want to finish out the series because I do enjoy it. It's not perfect and it's not really a series that I go out of my way to recommend because I fully acknowledge its flaws. It's about a main character called Evie who gets a job working for the villain of this fairy tale-like world. They have this grumpy sunshine dynamic and I eat it up, but I read this as satire. I hear other people explaining the reasons why they hate this series and I get it. In my mind, this is not meant to be taken seriously. Like, it's just so silly and ridiculous, but it's really fun. So I'm very excited to see how this series wraps up. The Fallen and the Kiss of Dusk by Carissa Broadbent is probably my most anticipated book of the summer. This comes out in August, I believe, and I'm just so excited to see how this duology is going to conclude. This is the 4th book in the Crowns of Nyaxia world. Carissa Broadbent is my go-to fantasy romance author. I love the way that she writes romantic tension, but also her books feel very intense. They're quite dark. She's not afraid to go there. I think she also writes politics very well, and for anyone who doesn't know, this is a vampire romance but set in a high fantasy world. I'm not going to tell you the synopsis for this because I don't want to spoil the previous book, but the synopsis for this sounds very similar to the first book in this duology, so I'm a little bit nervous that it's going to feel repetitive. Hopefully it's going to be fine. I do have faith that Carissa Broadbent is going to deliver. Samantha Shannon also has a new book coming out this year. Among the Burning Flowers is a new instalment in the Roots of Chaos series. The first book was The Priory of the Orange Tree, and then a prequel came out, A Day of Fallen Night, which I really enjoyed. I do think I'm reaching a point where I'm kind of done with this series because as much as I enjoyed Priory of the Orange Tree and A Day of Fallen Night, I don't know what else we need in this series. I think the world is really fascinating. Samantha Shannon did, in my opinion, such a great job of working religion into the story and just the different cultures of this world. I think it is just such an imaginative world. It's so well done. But what else is there to tell plot-wise? Like, when I think back on Priory and A Day of Fallen Night, I don't know if I really loved the plots for those books. It was more the world that I enjoyed exploring. So I am going to give this a go. I do have an arc of this through NetGalley. It's a little bit shorter than the other books. It's still 300 to 400 pages. I haven't looked too much into the synopsis for this, but yeah, from what I understand, it's set before Priory of the Orange Tree, but after A Day of Fallen Night. Mate by Ali Hazelwood also comes out later this year, and this is the third book that Ali Hazelwood has coming out this year. I still haven't read Deep End, and I still haven't read Problematic Summer Romance, which came out recently, but I think out of all of her releases for 2025, this is the one that I'm most curious about, because it's a sequel to Bride, but it's technically a standalone. It's set in the same world as Bride, but it follows side characters. This is a vampire werewolf series. It's a paranormal romance series, and I enjoyed Bride. However, I am not the biggest fan of the fated mates trope, so I'm really curious to see what Ali Hazelwood does with that, whether she approaches it in a new way and whether it subverts my expectations. But yeah, I will hopefully be picking this up at some point this year, but I should probably get to Deep End and Unproblematic, not unproblematic, problematic Summer Romance first, because those are already out. But this is the one that I'm most excited for, okay? And the final book on my list, I feel like I've saved one of the best for last, but Brigands and Bread Knives by Travis Baldry is coming out later this year. This is a sequel to Legends and Lattes. So Legends and Lattes came out first, then we had a prequel, Bookshops and Bone Dust. This is the third book in the series to come out, but it's a direct sequel to Legends and Lattes. It doesn't follow Viv though. Viv is the main character in the first two books. This is the series that introduced me to cozy fantasy, and I haven't read that many cozy fantasy books since that I've truly loved, but I'm very excited to return to this world. And yeah, I think that's the best place to end this video. So thank you for watching if you made it this far. Let me know in the comments if there are any books that you're really excited about that are releasing in the second half of this year. Don't forget to give this video a thumbs up if you enjoyed it, click subscribe if you would like to see more videos from me, but otherwise I will see you next time. Bye!